something. Very much so. Thank you. Not be able to get a hold of you for like a week. So anyway, if you get this message, get the dumpster out of there. The neighbors filling it up again, and we are done with it. So go ahead and get it on out of there. And again, I still do have something. I need to talk to you about the house and what's going on with it and so forth. So call me. I hope you have a great day. Bye.
And this message. To delete this message, press 7 to save it in the archives. Press 9 to hear more options. Press will be saved for 28 days. Next message sent yesterday at 12:07 p.m.
Paige, if you get this, please call somebody. Please come home. Please tell us that you're all right. Everybody's worried about you. Everybody's looking for you. Please, Paige, let us know that you're okay. I love you. Please let us know you're okay.
And this message. To delete this message, press 7 to save it in the archives. Press will be saved for 28 days. Next message sent yesterday at 2:26 p.m.
Hey, Dave, this is Amber. I was just wanting to let you know the invitation were coming. Anyway, give me a call when you get a chance, and if you haven't had time to do them, that's fine. Just let me know, and I can take care of it. Hope you're having a good day. 596-1382. Bye.
And this message.
Hey, Dave, this is Amber. I was just wanting to let you know the invitation were coming. Anyway, give me a call when you get a chance, and if you haven't had time to do them, that's fine. Just let me know, and I can take care of it. Hope you're having a good day. 596-1382. Bye.
And this message. To delete this message will be saved for 28 days. Next message sent yesterday at 10:19 p.m.
Hey, I hope you're really not missing it. I just saw something on TV about you being gone since Thursday night. I talked to you on Thursday. Oh my God. This is Carol. Oh my God, what happened?
And this message. To delete this will be saved for 28 days. Next message sent today at 10:02 a.m.
Hey, Paige, it's Jamie. I know that you're missing, but if by any chance you hear this message, I just wanted you to know, girl, we are out looking for you, and I love you so much. If you can find a way to text me, I'm going to unblock the text messaging thing on my phone. If you can find a way to text me somehow, you do it. Your kids are being taken care of, and we love you. Bye.
And this message. To delete this message, press 7 to save it in the archives. Press 9 to hear more options. Will be saved for 28 days. First saved message sent Thursday, June 28th at 9:56 p.m.
Judge, I'm sorry.
Mr. Rubenstein, for the record.
Thank you, Your Honor. We're stopping it again. It's now rolled over on this phone as well, if that's okay with defense.
Okay, there's no objection. That's fine. Thank you.
If I could ask Investigator Norcross to retake the stand.
Yes, sir. Thank you. You're still under oath, investigator. Thank you.
Good afternoon again, ma'am.
Hello.
So I want to talk a little bit about your process as it relates to those voice messages. You got these at kind of the beginning of your investigation and before you got a lot of the phone records, is that correct?
Correct.
Was it very obvious to you upon getting those voice messages that one of the phones was for the Models Inc. business and one of the phones was much more of a personal nature?
Yes.
Okay. Now also I want to clean up one issue related to the personal phone.
Okay.
The first 3 phone calls that appear on the track were from kids, and I don't know if it was the same kid or from different kids. Is that accurate?
Yes.
And the first actual phone call that you listened to, the one where the kid's kind of crying, do you recall that one?
Yes.
Was that actually the first in-time phone call?
No, but it was marked urgent, so it plays first
Okay.
on the voicemail system.
That phone call actually came in Friday evening, is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
So the first in-time phone call was the one that came in at 9:56 p.m.
Yes, on Thursday, the 28th.
on Thursday. And then there was another phone call later that evening, the third phone call you hear on the track at 11:08, also from kids?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that it was clear that the first phone call in time was actually the second track.
Correct.
Okay. So other things that you can gather as far as what you're going to collect for phone information from those voice messages. Are you able to get the phone numbers of the people calling in?
Yes, that would be on the call log, on the historical call logs.
Okay. Even though they just went straight to voicemail?
Yes.
Were there several people that their voices were on both phones that you later interviewed?
There's a couple that I know of.
Who were they?
I believe I know her first name's Carol. I believe the last name's Linderholm. I believe Mr. Biegler, Howard, the gentleman that she met in Eagle, called both phones. And I believe Mr. Dixon, her ex-husband and the father of the children, ended up calling both phones.
Okay. Is it significant to you as far as which people have all of her phone numbers?
Yes?
Okay. Now, also on the Models Inc. phone, the first phone call that comes in, was that phone call significant to the investigation?
Yes.
Why?
The first phone call that comes in, because eventually when I get all the records, it relates to somebody that there was conversation with before the phone stops getting answered. And then afterwards, the person's saying, hey, are you still coming out? Which would indicate that they had a plan, they had already made arrangements for someone to come visit.
Okay. Okay, with that, let's start talking about the actual phone records that you gathered.
Okay.
Did you provide those cell numbers to Deputy Gechter for him to, did you get cell numbers from Deputy Gechter who took the initial report?
Yes.
And is that how you got those messages?
Initially, that's how I, yes, because we actually obtained those via the emergent information to start with.
Okay. Explain the emergency process, please.
Okay, there's a couple different ways you can get cell phone records. When someone is in what we can consider immediate danger, you can get records under an emergency. They'll give you the records ahead of time, and then you have to follow up with a search warrant later, or a court order is what it is. Other people, not myself, other people got those records when she was reported missing. The day that she was reported missing, you fill out some different paperwork with the phone company, and then they provide you, they got very limited records, like only a couple days worth. After that, several days later, I went back and did the more regular process of getting the court order and got a month's worth of records.
May I approach, Honor?
Yes, sir.
Investigator, I'm just going to bring all of these up now. People's Exhibits 301 through and including 310, and then People's Exhibit 312 as well. And for the record, I've previously shown these to defense counsel.
Thank you.
Let's start with Exhibit 301.
Okay?
Investigator, what is that?
I'm going to look at each of them, but this is the this is the paperwork and the call log, the phone log that the investigator Norris received under the emergent circumstances over the weekend.
Okay. And that's the actual records that you got from the phone company?
It's a copy of them, yes.
And that was obtained pursuant to the process you described of the emergency?
Yeah, you can see the paperwork in here. There's paperwork that you have to fill out explaining what the emergency is. You can't just get it. You have to have a legitimate reason.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time I'd move to admit People's Exhibit 301.
Any objection?
No, sir.
People's 301 is admitted.
Were you the person that did all of the phone analysis for this investigation?
I didn't do it all, no. I did a good chunk of it.
Who else did phone analysis?
I know that Investigator Habenstreit got some phone records and did some analysis. I know that Investigator Norris got some, and Investigator Jarrell may have looked at some. I'm not 100% sure without checking a bunch of stuff.
But at this point, you've reviewed all of the records, is that
Yes.
accurate? Okay. Through your investigation and through listening to the voice messages and such, are you familiar with the phone number of Miss Bergfeld's personal cell?
Yes.
What is that phone number?
May I look at a piece of paper? So I have a lot of phone numbers. I'm going to make sure I get it right.
Would that refresh
It's-
your recollection?
Yes. It's a 970-778-0024.
If I could have you look at People's Exhibit 301 first. 301, the one you've already admitted.
Okay.
Okay. In those records, does that have the actual call logs from that phone number?
From the 778?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, it has a very small portion of them, yes.
Okay. And are those included in part in page 8418 of Discovery?
That's not a call log, but it's a...
That's the cover sheet.
Yeah, it's the cover sheet. It's breakdown who the account belongs to and things like that.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time I'd ask to publish page 8418 of Discovery, which is contained in Exhibit 301
Is there any
electronically.
objection, Mr. Colburn?
No objection.
That's fine, thank you.
Ms. Watson? Investigator, if I just have you keep those out for a minute, there's 3 other pages I wanted to discuss with you.
Okay.
Is that page 8418?
Yes,
Okay, and 8418 is a numbering system that my office used, right, for Discovery pages. That wasn't actually part of the phone records?
correct,
So you're looking at this number down in the bottom right corner, but
correct,
that was put on there by us, not by the phone company.
correct.
Okay. So on this cover sheet, where does it indicate the phone numbers and the people or the person that this is associated with?
Okay, I'm going to use this pointer. It's easier. So up here at the top, kind of in the top middle, it shows you phone numbers, and then the name underneath it, that's who subscribes to the phone, who's paying the phone bill. So you have 2 numbers. The 778 is what I will refer to as like the personal cell phone number. The 216-7460, that's the Models Inc. phone. So you see both of them are listed here, and that's just part of the phone bill and who the phone belongs to.
And does it have a name there as well?
Yes, both of them say Paige Dixon.
Okay. You're familiar from this case that Paige Dixon is Paige Bergfeld?
Yes,
She was previously married to Rob Dixon?
yes.
Okay. If I could have you look at page 8430 next, please. And Your Honor, I'd ask to publish that page as well.
Any objection, Mr. Colburn?
No objection.
That's fine, thank you.
Okay,
Is that page 8430?
yes, sir.
Okay. What is that?
Those are raw phone records. That's what we get when we look at phone records,
Okay.
which is different than what you get when you get a bill.
And which phone is this for?
You can tell it's for the 778-0024 because that MDN number that's the actual phone that these are the records for.
Could I have you go across from left to right and explain what your understanding of each of those columns is?
Sure. So from left to right, the first one is called the switch. Consider that the main information center. So this is in Aurora, where the main information center for these cell phone towers, all the towers around go to Aurora. That way, you know it's in Colorado. The call date, that's the actual date of the phone call. The call time is the time in military time. Originating CG is the originating cell phone tower. Terminating CG, sometimes that's a terminating tower, sometimes it depends. I can tell you from knowing phone records, and this DIR, which is the direction of the phone call, the initials MF here stand for message forwarded. So you don't have a tower because the calls didn't go through the phone didn't answer, so it went to voicemail. So you don't have a tower then when you have those kind of phone calls. The MDN is the phone number of whose records these are, and then you have the called number, and the CPN is, so this is the number that actually goes into the phone call. So if the called number is the same as the MDN number, then somebody else is calling into this 778 number. CPN is the number calling. For example, in that first one, it just shows 970. Sometimes, and I can't explain it to you because the phone company can't explain it to me, for some reason it doesn't grab the entire number. But like you can see, the next one down is the 267. There's a phone number there. That's a call from the 267 phone number to the 778-0424. And then the SZR is the seizure. That's the time of the phone call, how long it was in seconds. They give you seconds, not minutes.
If you were to look at two different records, let's say, for example, let's suppose I called you, my cell phone to your cell phone.
Okay?
Would the records of the length of time of my call be the same as the record for the length of time on your records?
Not always.
Why is that?
Because if you're calling, you connect to the system sooner, so your call may show to be several seconds longer than my call because of the amount of time that it takes for it actually to connect. A lot of times it matches, but sometimes it doesn't.
In the original C/G, the value there is 0 on all of that page.
Correct?
Why is that?
Because the phone didn't answer. Those all went straight to voicemail.
Okay, and you said original CG stands for what?
That's the original tower that it's hitting off of.
So if it goes straight to voicemail, there is no tower.
There is no tower, which means there's a difference. There's a difference if your phone rings and you choose not to answer it and then it goes to voicemail. It's activated on your phone, so there'll usually be a tower there. But if your phone is off and it's off, or if it's in airplane mode, you're not getting that phone call, so it's going straight to voicemail, so it's not going through a tower.
Ms. Watson, can I have you just scroll down so we can see all the way down to the bottom of that page?
That's a different page.
Okay. Now is this the same page, Ms. Watson? Yeah, 8430, please. Okay, so 8430, none of the calls, the phone appears to be off or in airplane mode or whatever, not accepting anything for the entirety of that. What are the dates that compromises?
That's from June 29th of 2007 at 14:23, which is 2:23 in the afternoon, through June 30th of 2007 at 16:37, which is 4:37 p.m.
You're familiar with the approximate date and time that Ms. Bergfeld went missing?
Yes.
Which was?
The 28th of June at around, I believe the last contact we know of, which we'll get, I believe we get to here, is on around 9 o'clock in the evening.
Okay. Your Honor, with court's permission, I'd like to publish the next page, 8431.
Any objection? No, sir. That's fine, thank you.
Okay, what are the dates that this page comprises?
Part of the 28th of June of 2007 and part of the 29th of June of 2007.
Okay, and somewhere about roughly, I don't know, halfway, two-thirds of the way down the page, yes, there's the number 160 in the column of the original CG, and so that is the cell tower of the last call that phone hit off of a tower?
That this phone on these phone records hit off of, yes.
Okay. As opposed to?
As opposed to if you and I are speaking, for example, if this is my phone records, these are my phone towers. Your phone towers are going to be on your phone records.
And so this record you said that you were looking at is Ms. Bergfeld's personal cell, the
Yes.
0024.
Yes.
Okay. So the date and time of the last phone call that hit off of a tower is what?
Is June 28th of 2007 at 20:57 hours is the start of the call, which is 8:57 at night in the evening.
And how long did that call last?
510 seconds.
600 seconds would be 10 minutes?
Yes, so short of 10 minutes.
8.5-ish minutes?
Correct.
Okay. And you are able to tell from that call who that call was with, or at least the phone number that call was with, is that right?
Yes.
And what phone number was that call with?
720-404-5177.
And as a result of your investigation, and your gathering of phone records and interviewing people, are you familiar with whose phone number that is?
Yes.
Whose phone number is that?
Mr. Beegler.
Okay. Ms. Watts, with the court's permission, Your Honor, I would like to look at page 8434.
Do you have any objection to publishing any of the pages in this exhibit? Okay, thank you. You can go ahead and just, any pages in this exhibit.
Thank you, sir.
Unless, if at some point you change your mind, if you'll just object, Mr. Colvin.
And
Thank
just for the
you.
court's information, this is actually the last page that
Oh,
we're going to be looking
okay,
at.
sorry.
But
I'm not saving
thank you for
much
that.
time then.
Okay. So this is a few pages later in the records. What are we looking at here?
This gives you the cell tower number, the lat and longitude of the actual tower, and address that they use for it. This is where the towers are located.
Okay. So the original C/G said 160
Correct.
on the records.
Correct.
So do you match that up with the 160 on this?
Yes. So you look here, you see 160 on the cell number, and the address where that actual tower is physically located is 22 3/4 Road and River Road here in Grand Junction, Colorado.
Okay. Are you familiar with where that location is of that? So that's the location of the tower,
Yes.
not the location of the person.
Correct. The phone is hitting off of that tower, and the tower is physically built at that location.
Your Honor, at this time I would ask to publish Exhibit 203, which was previously admitted into evidence.
Any objection? That's fine, thank you.
Ms. Watson, if you could put up 203. Now, Investigator Norcross, there is a Grand Junction Police Department detective, Sergeant Norcross.
Yes.
That is your husband.
Yes.
Just by chance, he happened to be working that evening a traffic accident and testified earlier in this case, or were you aware of that?
I'm aware of both. I know he was the sergeant of the traffic unit for a long time over there.
Okay, so when his name pops up on Exhibit 203 at the top, you understand why?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I don't know what the exhibit is, but I know who he is.
I'm sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, it's not going to have Doug Norcross's name. It's going to have Patrick Hupke's name on it. Are you familiar with this map?
Well, I'm familiar with where all that is, yes.
Okay. There is a yellow dot in the middle of that picture.
Yes.
Do you know why from being part of this investigation?
Yes.
What was at that yellow dot?
Well, that's where G Road and 23 Road are, and I know there was an accident there on the night of the 28th.
Okay. The cell tower that's listed as cell tower 160 you described as being at an address off 23.5 Road, I believe?
No, it's 22 3/4.
22 3/4.
And
excuse me.
River Road. That's okay.
Can you show the jury where that would be in relation to this map?
It's down here on the bottom half of the map, kind of on the left side. See where it says Allen Unique Auto? That tower sits right in this area. You can see it. I mean, it's visible.
Have you been to that area?
I've driven by that hundreds of times.
Are you, from where that yellow dot is, are you able to clearly see that tower?
I know you could. They've put some buildings in here since that time frame. I'm guessing you probably can still see it, depending on where you're standing in that intersection. But it's clear shot here. Okay. There's no really tall buildings, but I'm kind of short. So, there's I don't think there's any two-story buildings there that I can think of, but I know there's single-story, taller business buildings there.
Okay. So according to those records, whose phone was hitting off of that tower?
Ms. Bergfeld's.
And did you examine other records to determine where Mr. Beegler's phone was hitting off of?
Yes.
Where was Mr. Beegler's phone hitting off of?
He's in Aurora, Colorado.
Okay. Thank you. I'm done asking you about those emergency records. If you want to place those back, we can move on to some others. Next, if I could have you look at People's Exhibit 302.
Okay.
What is that?
This is a full copy of what I eventually received for Ms. Bergfeld's phone records for both her Models Inc. and her personal phone.
You explained previously that for an emergency process, you don't have to get a search warrant, but you later have to follow up with a search warrant.
Or court order,
Or
yes.
court order. Is that, yes, a court order for production of records? That's similar to a search warrant, right?
Yes, yes.
All the same requirements?
Yes,
For the jury's benefit, essentially probable cause that you will find evidence relevant to your investigation on those records?
yes,
Okay. Did you do that in order to obtain the records in People's Exhibit 302?
yes.
Did you obtain all of the records that you were supposed to get on the first time around?
No.
Can you explain what happened?
I don't know, I often serve records. What we do is we serve the court order, you fax it to the company. Almost all cell phone companies have one main center. You send the fax to them. They receive the records. Back then, they would sometimes mail them to you, sometimes email them to you. Now they secure email them to you. I sent them to Verizon. I had dealt with Verizon before, and I've dealt with them since. This particular time, I sent them. They sent me partial records. It didn't have the cell towers. It didn't have all the dates I requested. I resent it. They sent me something a second time. Weeks later, understand none of this comes immediate. All of the rest of these, the emergence ones, come quickly. They come usually to you within hours. All the rest of these usually take weeks to months to get the cell phone records. So it took a couple weeks. They didn't give me what I needed the first time. I resent the request to them in the court order. They sent me again a bigger stack of information, but it didn't contain everything I wanted or had asked for and had authorization to get. So I sent it yet a third time. I don't think I got, and I still didn't get complete records, but I got the final set of records in, I think it's September 30th or something of 2007. I don't know why there was such a problem in this particular case, but there was.
One of the things that you requested and never got was text messages. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you requested them on Ms. Bergfeld's phone,
Yes.
as well as a Walmart track phone at one point?
Yes.
Throughout the entire investigation, are you aware of any person that ever gave information that they contacted her related to Models Inc. via text message?
No.
That never came up as part of the investigation at all?
No.
Are you aware of anything where she solicited text messages as a way to get a hold of her?
No. I've dealt with these businesses and investigations involving them several times in the past, and it's a phone call business usually.
Objection, Judge. What other businesses do is relevant. In addition to that, personal knowledge has in some ways foundations or an opinion as to that. In addition to that, calls for expert opinion.
The objection sustained. The jury's to disregard the last answer.
But with regard to specifically Ms. Bergfeld, you've seen the advertisements for her business?
Yes.
You've seen the business cards, you've seen all the other stuff?
I don't know if I probably have seen some of them. I don't know. I've seen the, I know I've seen some advertisements. I don't know whether I've seen business cards or not.
Can you tell me the exhibit for the cards? Why don't we continue, and I'm going to get back to you with a question on that. But you're familiar that at no point during this investigation has anybody talked about contacting her via text message?
Correct.
Okay. Nevertheless, you requested them, you got a court order for them to produce them, you didn't get them.
Correct.
How long do text messages remain around?
Well, the text logs remain around for usually about, at minimum, 18 months. However, the content of those messages are usually gone within days of the incident when you're asking. So, as an example, if something happens today and I don't know about it until a week from now, any text messages are already gone. Those text messages are used a lot. Companies used to keep them a little bit more, and there were only 2 that kept them routinely. Most of the companies don't keep them, and now they don't keep them because there's too many and too much of a storage thing. They don't keep content, except for, I know of one company that has them maybe 2 days. So if you don't get to it quickly, you're not going to get it.
And you can send something called a preservation letter to the company asking them to keep them,
Yes.
but you didn't need to in this case because you actually sent them a search warrant or a court order ordering them to produce it.
Correct.
Nevertheless, they didn't.
Correct.
And they are unavailable at this time?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time, I would move to admit People's Exhibit 302.
Do you have an objection, Mr. Colvin?
No, sir.
People's 302 is admitted.
You are also familiar with Mr. Beegler through this investigation, is that correct?
Yes.
And you were familiar through the investigation that Mr. Beegler had said he had met up with her in Eagle earlier that day?
Yes.
Would it be fair to say that ex-husbands are on the list of people you typically look at
Yes.
in an investigation? Okay.
Yes.
Did you obtain Mr. Beegler's phone records?
Yes.
How did you obtain his phone number?
One of the investigators gave it to me.
He actually said it on the 911 call, or on his call to law enforcement as well, right?
Yes. I don't know that I knew that at the time, but yes.
Okay. Either way, you got it through the investigation.
Yes.
Okay. People's Exhibit 303, do you recognize those records?
Yes.
What are they?
They're records from Mr. Beegler's cell phone company on his account.
How did you obtain those?
The same process that I explained about getting a court order, sending it to this particular company, and then receiving them from them.
And that's a copy of the records you obtained
Yes.
in that manner. Your Honor, at this time, I'd move to admit People's Exhibit 303.
Mr. Colvin?
No objection, Judge.
Thank you. People's 303 is admitted.
Similarly, investigator, you're familiar with Rob Dixon,
Yes.
and again, you're familiar that he's an ex-husband.
Yes.
Did you obtain his records?
Yes.
How did you get his phone number?
From an investigator.
Okay. If you could look at 304.
Okay.
What is that?
These are a copy of phone records from showing Mr. Dixon's account.
And how did you obtain that?
The same process through the court order. Through a different, you have to do a different court order per phone or per person, let's put it that way.
But the same process?
Yes.
Okay. And those are the records you obtained as a result of that order?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, I'd move to admit People's Exhibit 304.
Mr. Colvin?
No objection.
304 is admitted.
Are you familiar with a gentleman by the name of Joseph Caruth?
Yes.
Are you familiar through the investigation that that's somebody she had telephone contact with on the day she disappeared?
Yes.
Did you obtain his records
Yes.
pursuant to the same process?
Yes, someone did.
Okay. One of the investigators obtained them through
Yes.
through that court order process?
Yes.
And are those records?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, I'd move to admit People's Exhibit 305.
No objection, Judge.
People's 305 is admitted. Thank you.
Are you familiar with George Coraluzzo?
Yes.
And is he somebody that you are aware from the investigation tried to contact Ms. Bergfeld around that time quite a few times?
Yes.
How did you obtain his phone number? Is that when you got through Ms. Bergfeld's records?
Yes, I believe it was through the emergent records has just a couple days, and there were some phone numbers listed in there. I believe initially it was through there, but I know other people confirmed that this was his phone number.
And he was also interviewed by law enforcement as well, right?
Yes.
Okay. If you could look at 306.
Okay.
What is that?
Phone records for George Corluzzo's phone,
And
cell phone?
Are those records obtained through that same process?
Yes?
At this time, I'd move to admit 306.
Do you have an objection, Mr. Colburn?
No, sir.
Thank you. 306 is admitted.
Through the investigation, investigator, were you familiar that George Corluzzo purchased a track phone that he didn't activate until he got to New Jersey?
Yes.
Did you obtain records of that phone?
I tried.
Okay. Is that Exhibit 307? Or is 307 a different New Jersey phone for?
No, 306 is the Colorado-based cell phone.
Okay.
307 is a New Jersey-based phone number.
Okay. So is that the phone he purchased here and activated there, or is that a different phone?
Yes, no, it's the same.
Okay. How did you obtain those records?
Through the same process.
Your Honor, at this time I'd move to admit Exhibit 307.
Do you have an objection, Mr. Colburn?
No objection.
Thank you. 307 is admitted.
You're familiar with Lester Jones being the defendant in this case?
Yes?
And did you obtain his phone numbers?
Yes,
How did you obtain those?
from him.
He told those numbers to you?
Yes?
You actually interviewed him at one point, is that correct?
Yes?
If you could look at 308. What are those?
These are the phone records for Mr. Jones' cell phone.
And how were those obtained?
The same process.
Your Honor, at this time I'd move to admit People's Exhibit 308.
No objection.
308 is admitted.
Did you also obtain Elaine Jones' phone records?
Yes?
And that was for her cell phone, is that correct?
Correct?
You're aware that they had a home phone?
Yes.
I think you mentioned earlier home phone records are completely different.
Correct. They don't have a log of the phone calls. Not local, and not cell phone into a house. They don't have that. They only have long distance calls.
Okay. So these are Elaine Jones' cell phone records.
Yes.
Okay, and is that Exhibit 309?
Yes?
How did you obtain her number?
I know Mr. Jones gave it to me. I don't recall, I spoke with her at one point. I don't recall if she gave it to me also or confirmed it.
Okay. The records confirm that it's her phone.
Correct.
How did you obtain those?
Same process.
Your Honor, at this time I'd move to admit People's Exhibit 309.
Mr. Colburn?
No objection, Judge.
Thank you. 309 is admitted.
At some point during the investigation, there was a track phone that was determined to be calling into and received one call from Ms. Bergfeld's Models Inc. phone. Is that correct?
Correct?
Did you obtain the records for that?
Yes?
If I could have you look at Exhibit 310.
Okay.
What is 310?
These are records. So TracPhones is a little bit different than some other phone companies. TracPhone, these are records from AT&T concerning who had the phone, which in their records comes back to TracPhone. TracPhone is a third party. They obtain phones from some of the main phone companies, and then they sell them. They're prepaid phones to where you pay for the minutes ahead of time and then you use the phone. So whichever company, and they have them probably, I think, from all the companies, all the main ones, those companies provide the towers to use, but TracPhone sells the phones. So they're kind of in the middle. So this is from AT&T that shows the call log and shows that the phone belongs to TracPhone.
So that's just the call side of it, not the ownership side of it.
Correct.
Okay. And how did you obtain those records?
Same process.
Okay. And that's Exhibit 310?
Yes.
This time I'd move to admit People's Exhibit 310.
Mr. Colburn?
Sorry. No.
310 is admitted.
Investigator, we're going to skip 312 for the moment. Judge, if I may approach.
Yes, sir.
Handing you what's previously been admitted into evidence as Exhibit 468.
Sorry, you weren't near a microphone, and I forgot to turn it while you were walking.
Investigator, I've handed you what's previously been marked into evidence as Exhibit 468.
Thank you.
Do you recognize those?
Well, I can tell you what they are.
What are they?
They're Models Inc., like business cards.
Does it indicate how to get a hold of Models Inc.?
Call anytime, 216-7460.
And is that the phone number that you were aware was the phone Ms. Bergfeld was using for her Models Inc. business?
Yes.
Does it mention anything about texting her? Just says call anytime?
Yes, I was double checking, but no, there's nothing about text.
Okay. May I approach?
Yes, sir.
Did you assist me in preparing a PowerPoint presentation list of all the phone records that were, all the phone calls that were going on with Ms. Bergfeld, both on her home phone and her personal phone, on that Thursday,
The 28th of June, yes.
28th of June, 2007?
Correct.
And have you looked at that prior to coming into court,
Yes.
if I may approach?
Yes, sir.
Investigator, I've shown you what's marked as Exhibit 311, People's Exhibit 311, and for the record, Your Honor, I've previously given defense counsel a copy and shown it to them as well.
Thank you.
Do you recognize that?
Yes.
You look unsure.
No, I know what it is. I thought there were some corrections.
Oh, is that an earlier version? My apologies. May I approach and retrieve that?
Yes, sir.
I had some errors on there, is that correct?
Correct?
Hold on. That's the corrected copy, Exhibit 311?
Correct.
Okay. And what is that cover sheet?
What I tried to do was, because I think it's helpful to understand the phone records and sequence of phone calls, I tried to take all of this information, which takes a while to ingest and condense it into a PowerPoint that is easier able to show who's calling who.
And then, so the cover sheet is a color-coded version of each person has assigned a different color, essentially?
Yes, because I'm that way.
And then the next several pages are the actual chronological calling of each of the phone calls from both of her phones and who they were coming from or to?
Correct.
Did you also include in that the cell site tower location of where those phones were?
When available, yes.
When available. Okay. Your Honor, at this time I'd move to admit People's Exhibit 311.
Mr. Colvin. People's 311 is admitted.
And Investigator, I'm going to show you three other documents now, and then we'll talk about them. If I can approach.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Investigator, the first one I handed to you is marked 311A, and for the record, I've shown that to defense counsel as well. Is that just a list of the name associated with each phone number as the investigation revealed?
Yes.
So that if the jury wanted to look at the actual raw records in the jury room, they would be able to match up which phone number is associated with which person?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time I'd move to admit 311A.
Any objection, Mr. Colvin?
No, Judge.
311A is admitted, thank you.
Then if I could have you look at the next exhibit, is that 315?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and what is 315?
This is a summary of the calls between the Joneses, Mr. Jones and his wife Elaine.
Okay, and that included 3 different phone numbers, is that correct? Mr. Jones' personal cell, Mrs. Jones' personal cell, and their home phone?
Yes.
Okay, and what's the date range that covers?
June 26th through June 30th.
And does that cover all of the phone calls that you are aware of that occurred between those 3 phone numbers during those dates?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time I'd move to admit Exhibit 315.
Do you have an objection, Mr. Colvin?
No objection.
People's 315 is admitted.
And then, ma'am, if I could have you look at Exhibit 314A through J. Is that a stapled packet that has 314A through and including J?
Yes.
Okay. Is that a packet of maps showing the date, time, duration, and cell site location of all of the phone calls you're aware of between Mr. Jones' personal cell, the Walmart track phone, and the Models Inc. phone
For that week, yes.
for that week? And so what are the dates that it includes for that?
June 25th through June 28th
Okay.
of 2007.
And does that cover all of the calls that you are aware of that occurred between those 3 phones?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time I would move to admit People's Exhibit 314A through and including J.
Mr. Colvin?
No objection.
People's 314A through and including J is admitted.
Okay. Investigator, now I think we have everything in evidence that we need to talk about it, so let's talk about what those exhibits mean. Ms. Watson, if I could, with the court's permission, if I could have Ms. Watson publish Exhibit 315.
Okay, Mr. Colvin?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. You can proceed.
They may show better with the lights dimmed a little bit because of the coloring.
Okay, this, I don't think that would be necessary for this first one, but
Okay.
if the jury could let us know, maybe if they can't see it.
Sure, they have their own monitors too up in the jury box, which the witness may not know about, but if you have any problems or you need the lights dim, ladies and gentlemen, if you'll just raise your hand for me, we're happy to do that. Thank you.
Okay, investigator, is that what you're looking at as Exhibit 315?
Yes.
Okay, so after, for lack of a better term, crunching all those numbers in all those manila envelopes, what were you able to conclude about the dates and times and durations of calls and where they were coming from with respect to Lester and Elaine Jones's phones?
From looking at the records and from information I received from talking with people, I was aware that there were some phone calls because Ms. Jones was out of town that week. And so there were calls between the 2 of them, Mr. Jones and Ms. Jones, usually in the morning and usually in the evening.
And you were aware that she had, during her interview, said that she spoke to him every day, usually twice?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry, usually in the morning and the afternoon, I think.
Correct.
Okay, so were you attempting to corroborate that information and figure out the times?
Yes.
Okay, so what did we learn?
So on June 26th, this is a summary that Ms. Jones called the home phone, the Jones home phone. These times that are here are listed in Colorado time. Ms. Jones' phone is hitting off of a tower in the state of Georgia, but I converted the time to Colorado time.
So if you look at Ms. Jones' records, the time doesn't reflect that time,
Correct, it's going to say 2 hours ahead.
but if you look at Mr. Jones' records, it will say that time,
Correct,
because his records are hitting off of a tower here.
correct.
Okay.
On the cell phone records, yes. So you can see that Ms. Jones called the Jones home phone at about 5:20 in the morning on the 26th. Duration of the call is 918 seconds.
A little over 15 minutes.
Yes. June 26th, there was a phone call at 16:43, which is 4:43 p.m. That's a short call. 69 seconds, and that's...
What does that indicate to you, 69 seconds? Can you interpret anything from that?
It's either a very short call or maybe something that it rings through and then goes to voicemail. I can't tell you.
Okay.
At 2021 on June 26th, there's a 38-second call from Ms. Jones' cell phone to the home phone. And then June 26th, a minute later, there is a 634-second phone call between Ms. Jones' cell phone and Mr. Jones' cell phone.
Okay, so in your expert opinion, they have a morning conversation of about 15 minutes. Then there's attempt in the afternoon. You don't know what that means. Is that accurate?
They may or may not have had conversation on the 4:43 p.m. phone call.
If so, very brief,
Very
possibly
brief.
a voice message.
That's a minute phone call period.
And then at 8:21, there's a call from her cell to the home phone. That's 38 seconds. And 1 minute later, a call from her phone to his cell. What would you, in your opinion, interpret from that 38-second call?
She wasn't able to get a hold of anybody, so she called the other phone.
Okay. And
And
judging by the
634 seconds is a significant conversation.
10 and a half minutes.
Yes.
And where is his phone, what cell tower is his phone hitting off of?
It's a large tower just south of the Mesa County line in Delta County called Mesa Point Mountain. It's literally on top of the mountain.
Okay. Okay, so 5:20-ish or 5:20 phone call, about 15 minutes, evening phone call. What about June 27th?
You can see somewhat of a same pattern. About 5:29 in the morning on June 27th, Ms. Jones calls the home phone. 323 seconds, I would say, is probably more likely a conversation. At 18:22, which is 6:22 p.m. on the 27th, there's a 77-second phone call. It's from the home phone to Ms. Jones' cell phone. May or may not have had conversation. If so, it was a shorter conversation. About 13 minutes later, there's a phone call from Ms. Jones' cell phone to the home phone, to the Jones home phone. And then at 6:41 p.m. on the 27th, there's a 329-second phone call from Mr. Jones' cell phone to Ms. Jones' cell phone.
Okay, so similar pattern, 5-minute-ish conversation in the morning, around 5:30-ish.
Yes.
Same thing, Miss Jones calling him, he's at home.
Yes.
And she's still in Georgia.
She's still in Georgia, yes.
And then the June 27th, so that's starting from 6:22 p.m. until 6:41 p.m. So would I be accurate in saying that looks like phone tag back and forth until a final phone call?
And that could be the case, yes.
Calling back and forth every few minutes or so until they finally have a about 5-minute phone call?
Correct.
Okay, how about June 28th?
Again, at about 5:28 in the morning on the 28th, there's a 636-second call from Ms. Jones' cell phone to the home phone as they had the two previous days. And then at about 5:13 on that evening, there is a 505-second phone call from the Jones home phone to Ms. Jones' cell phone.
Okay. 29th? Now, the June 28th, that was the date that Ms. Bergfeld went missing?
Yes.
Okay. You familiar from the records as to where Ms. Bergfeld was around 7:13 p.m. on the 28th?
I could tell you if I look at something. May I look
Do you recall where she was from your investigation of the phone records around 7 p.m.?
I believe she was still in Eagle.
Okay. And that.
And
in
then she
Eagle.
she drove back, yes.
Okay. Okay, so then on to June 29th, similar pattern in the morning?
Yes, at about 6:25 in the morning, there's a phone call from the Jones home phone to Ms. Jones' cell phone. And then at 8:28 p.m., there's a lengthy phone call, 1,034 seconds between from the Jones home phone to Ms. Jones' cell phone on the 29th.
Okay. She's still in Georgia at that point,
Yes?
or at least her phone is.
Yes?
And then June 30th.
At 7:26 in the morning, there is a 1,718 second phone call from the Jones home phone to Ms. Jones' cell phone, which is still in Georgia. And then that afternoon at 3:21 in the afternoon, there's a 34-second call from Mr. Jones' cell phone to Ms. Jones' cell phone.
And it says no tower information. What does that mean?
That's one of those times when it didn't pick up in the records and nobody can tell me.
Are you familiar from the investigation that that was around the time Ms. Jones was flying back from Georgia?
Yes, I believe so.
If she was in airplane mode or on an airplane or something like that, would that account for the no tower information?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, next, if I could have you look at exhibits 314A through J, and with the court and counsel's permission, I'd ask to publish those.
That's fine, thank you. You can go ahead.
Now, these are similar to that, but these are maps of calls with Ms. Bergfeld's phone and Mr. Jones' phone, as well as a Walmart track phone. Is that right?
Correct?
Okay, Ms. Watson, if I could have you start with, well, if I could have you just bring up 314, I think is what it's called in your slides. Okay. Prior to June 25th, are you aware as to whether or not there were any phone calls between Mr. Jones' personal cell and Ms. Bergfeld's Models Inc. phone?
Yes, there were.
About how many?
I'd have to check my records. I don't recall.
Okay. Does it sound correct that there were 3 in the month of June?
Yes,
And
something
there-
like that.
And there were others prior to that, but there were 3 earlier in the month on June 1st, 2nd, and 19th. Does that sound right?
Objection. Counsel was testifying there was more before then. This witness hasn't testified to that knowledge.
Objection sustained.
Are you aware of whether or not there were calls before that?
Yes.
Were there?
According to the information I have, yes.
Okay. In the month of June, does June 1st, 2nd, and 19th sound correct as the dates of those 3 calls?
Yes.
Okay. Would looking at a different slide that you had created at one point refresh your recollection?
Yes.
I can approach, Your Honor.
Yes, sir.
Is that
Okay,
correct?
that is correct.
Okay. So starting on June 25th, that is Monday of the week she went missing, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So that week, was this the first phone call?
Yes.
Okay. Now this occurred from which phone to which phone?
May I check?
Would that
something?
refresh your recollection?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I apologize.
No problem.
Okay, so the first phone call is from Mr. Jones' cell phone to the Models Inc. phone.
Okay. And which tower was Mr. Jones' cell phone hitting off of?
Mr. Jones is hitting off of there's a tower that sits on Crossroads Court at 2768.
And what tower was Miss Bergfeld's phone hitting off of?
A tower that sits at 688.5, 29.5 Road.
Are you familiar with whether or not Miss Bergfeld had an office where she conducted her Models Inc. business?
Yes.
Where is that office in relation to this map?
It's up on one of the side streets of Crossroads.
Okay. Is it very close to that red dot?
Yes,
Okay. So Mr. Jones is hitting off of that tower, and she's hitting off of a tower not terribly far away. Is that right? Maybe a mile or so? A couple miles?
correct.
Okay. That occurred at 9:03 p.m., according to this map, and was 180 seconds.
Correct?
Is 180 seconds probably a conversation based on your experience?
I would say that, yes.
Okay. If we can go to the next slide. So the next call was 16 minutes later. Is that right?
Correct.
And who called whom?
Mr. Jones' personal cell phone called the Models Inc. phone.
Okay. And at this point, the dots look like they're together. Are they both hitting off of the same tower?
Correct?
All right. And the duration of that call is 60 seconds. What
Correct.
does that mean to you?
Maybe there was conversation, maybe there wasn't. If it was short.
Okay. Possibly a voicemail, possibly a short conversation, hard to tell.
Hard to tell.
Okay. Were there any other phone calls on that Monday between those two phones?
No.
Okay. Ms. Watson, if I could go to the next slide. So that was on Monday. There was nothing, no calls on Tuesday.
Correct?
So now we're on to Wednesday, right,
Correct.
June 27th?
Correct?
Okay, so this call is actually not with Mr. Jones' phone, right?
Correct?
This call is with what?
Oh, Walmart track phone.
Okay, and we'll talk about that later.
Okay?
What was the direction of this? Which phone called which phone?
The track phone called the Models Inc. phone
At what time?
at 10:03 a.m. on the 27th of June of 2007.
Okay, and you have the records for the track phone. Have you reviewed those previously?
Yes.
Where is this call in relation to the track phone's existence of calls?
This one is the first one.
First call ever made.
Yes.
Okay. Duration of call says 206 seconds.
Yes?
Based on your experience, did a conversation occur?
I would say yes.
Okay. So track phone is hitting off of a South Camp tower, according to that map,
Yes.
and Miss Jones' phone is hitting off of,
The
North
585 North Commercial Drive?
is that just like sort of central downtown Grand Junction?
No. It's up off of 25 Road in Patterson, near there.
Okay, so kind of close to the mall,
Kind of, yes.
a little bit east of the mall?
Yes.
Okay. So that was at 10:03 a.m. Was there any other calls that day with that phone?
Yes.
Is that the next slide,
Yes.
Ms. Watson? Okay, so this is, which phone calling which phone?
This is the same track phone. The same track phone and the Models Inc. phone. And it's the track phone calling the Models Inc. phone.
Okay, and occurring at what time?
At 6:30 p.m. that evening.
And how long is that? 166 seconds, it looks like, on the map.
I think I have 182. Is that right?
Okay, is it possible one of the records says 166 and the other one says 182?
It could be.
For the reason you explained before about whichever calls is longer?
Correct?
Based on your experience, would that likely be a conversation?
Yes, it could be. Yeah.
Okay. And so...
So the track phone's hitting off of a tower up on the top of the mesa.
Why is that tower? What's the purpose of that tower?
We have here in Grand Junction, we have a couple of the larger towers. One sits out west and one sits on top of the mesa. They kind of cover blanket areas where some of these smaller towers don't cover. They don't all have the same distance of range, and that's a very large tower that sits up on top of the mesa. It covers a lot of the east end of our county.
So if you're in an area that's kind of a dead spot for other towers, it's sort of a blanket cover-all kind of tower?
Yes.
Okay. So it doesn't mean he's up on the mesa, I guess is what I'm asking.
No, he might be, he might not be, but that's a big tower.
Okay. So, again, this is track phone,
Correct?
calls her Models Inc. phone,
Yes.
6:03 p.m. Any other calls with the track phone that day?
Yes,
When?
at 7:45.
Is that the next slide,
Yes.
Ms. Watson? Okay, so which direction?
Again, it's the track phone calling the Models Inc. phone.
Okay. Track phone hitting off of that South Camp Tower.
Correct.
That was hit off before. Miss Bergfeld's hitting off of the one
North Commercial
east,
Drive.
little east of the mall.
Yes.
That one says 50 seconds. Likely
Yes.
a conversation or not, or hard to tell?
Hard to tell.
Okay. Any other calls with the track phone that day?
No.
Any other calls with his personal cell phone that day?
Yes.
Ms. Watson? Is this the next one?
Yes, on the 27th? Yes.
Okay. And so this is Mr. Jones'
Cell-
personal cell.
Personal cell is calling the Models Inc. phone.
Okay.
And they are both hitting off of the same tower.
Duration of that call, 120 seconds. Likely a conversation?
Yes, I would say so.
Okay. And then, are you familiar with the investigation in the part relating to Miss Linderholm?
Partially, yes.
Are you familiar with whether or not Miss Linderholm had any contact with Mr. Jones on this day?
Yes, she did. I am aware of that.
Okay. From your review of the cell records, does it appear that that contact was precipitated by these calls?
Yes.
Okay, based on the times you're aware of this.
These are prior to when I know the contact occurred.
Okay, so 7:56 p.m., 120-second call, Mr. Jones' personal cell to the Models Inc. cell.
Yes.
And then what's next? Ms. Watson?
There's one last call on the 27th. No, I'm sorry. Take that back. There's two more calls on the 27th.
Okay.
There's
Ms.
one at 8:03 p.m. And at 8:03 p.m., this is the Models Inc. phone is calling to Mr. Jones' cell phone.
Okay, so the last one was 120 seconds. Would you say it's possible that the last one was a voice message or possibly a solicitation of, hey, call me back sort of thing, and then this, because this is what, 7 minutes or 8 minutes later? Or 7 minutes later?
I don't
And then
know
it
that I
calls-
can tell you exactly that.
Okay, but this one then calls back 7
This one
minutes.
calls back,
Okay, and this is 60 seconds.
correct?
Conversation, no conversation?
Don't know.
Don't know, okay. And then you said there was one more this evening,
Correct?
Ms. Watson?
And that's at 9:05 p.m.
Okay. So about an hour later,
Correct?
and
It's 60 seconds, and it is, it's the Models Inc. phone calling to Mr. Jones'
okay.
cell phone.
And so the Models Inc. phone is hitting off of that tower just east of the mall, the 2784 Winters Avenue tower.
Yes.
Is that tower significant to you as far as this investigation at all?
Actually, both of these are, yes.
What's the significance of each of them?
They're both closest to where these people live. The 2784 Winters Avenue is the closest tower to Mr. Jones' home address, and the 585 North Commercial Drive is the closest tower to Ms. Bergfeld's home address.
Okay. And again, just because the tower is there, that doesn't mean they're at that address or at their house or whatever.
No,
but
it's just the closest.
closest. Okay. Is that the last contact between the two of them on that date?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Watson, if you can go to the next one. This is now June 28th. That's the date, Thursday, that Ms. Bergfeld went missing?
Yes.
Okay. So this phone call says 6:40 p.m. and there's only one dot on the map.
Correct?
What does that mean?
Because Ms. Bergfeld's phone didn't answer, and so it went to voicemail, so there's no cell tower. But this is the cell tower from Mr. Jones's cell phone records.
Okay. Now, Miss Jones, you were aware through tracking her phone as far as where she was at that time.
Yes?
Okay.
Sorry.
Does no tower information mean her phone is turned off or possibly in an area that has no cell coverage? You had mentioned earlier when you don't answer, if it rings but you don't answer, that you might get tower
You're
information.
probably going to get a tower, correct.
Okay, so-
This is turned off and either airplane mode, turned off. I guess you could be somewhere where the phone has no service at all, correct.
Okay. And the track phone is hitting off of the tower that his personal cell was hitting off of the night before, right?
Yes, yes,
And that's the one that's closest to his home,
yes.
okay? And then is there any other contact between those phones?
There's one last call between the track phone and Ms. Bergfeld's phone.
Okay, now this one is 36 seconds, likely a conversation?
No, I would say that's probably a voice message.
Okay, Ms. Watson? And so this is the last contact?
Yes?
And that is at 6:55. Which direction is the call?
This is from Ms. Bergfeld's Models Inc. phone back to the track phone.
And her phone is hitting off of a tower in,
Gypsum,
and his phone is hitting off of
the same tower on Winters
the
Avenue.
one that you said was closest to his house.
Yes,
And this is 85 seconds.
yes,
Likely a conversation?
more likely, yes.
Okay. So we saw during this little presentation 5 phone calls between the track phone and Miss Jones' Models Inc. phone. Is that accurate?
Ms. Bergfeld's Models Inc.
I'm
phone?
sorry.
Yes. Yes.
What did I say?
Ms. Jones, I think.
Miss Jones. I apologize. Yes. Between the track phone and Miss Bergfeld's Models Inc. phone.
Yes.
How many other calls were made to or from Mr. Jones, to or from the track phone in its existence?
None.
The entirety of all of the calls that were made are these 5 calls?
Yes.
Was there any other contact between Mr. Jones' personal cell and Mr. Jones' personal cell and the Models Inc. phone after this?
No.
Nothing for any records you ever looked at?
Correct?
Okay. Let's talk about June 28th itself.
Okay.
With the court and council's permission, I'd like to publish Exhibit 311.
Is there any objection, Mr. Colburn?
No objection.
Oh, Judge, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Before we do that, this is probably
It's
a good time. Yes.
All right, thank you. We'll go ahead and take our afternoon recess, ladies and gentlemen. Please remember the instructions for the recesses. We'll just take a 10-minute recess. Thank you so much. Please rise for our jury. Jury's left the court. Anything else for the record, Mr. Rubenstein?
No, sir.
Mr. Colvin?
No, sir.
Thank you. We'll be in recess until 3:15, please. Thanks.